So where'd you get to?
Where'd I get to?
Where are you at in the game?
Literally minutes ago, dude, I just ran. Pronunciations give me so much anxiety in this game. Hawk Manor is how I'm going to choose to pronounce that one. I just ran Hawk Manor.
Okay, the haunted house.
Dude, I loved it. That is my favorite thing I've done so far in game.
So you did the Bowl of Embers, and you didn't tell me. You weren't at all impressed.
Bowl of Embers?
The Bowl of Embers with Ifrit, the big alien-looking aliens with the horns and jumping from the moon that was on fire, and the big ring of fire, and the crystal that jumped out of his chest, and the music was blaring.
I did. I don't think I noticed he jumped from the moon. I thought didn't he just kind of summon his ass out of fire?
You weren't the least bit impressed for that. That was the moment when I was sold in the game, and you blew by it.
Yes. I didn't think, honestly, dude, I didn't think it was that good of a set piece. Greetings and welcome back. This is Nexus Gaming News. I'm Garrett Weinzierl here as always with Kyle Ferguson. And today our Final Fantasy XIV exploration continues. I'm thinking about renaming the channel on the podcast feed because we just keep talking about this damn game. Because you did it, Kyle. You did what everyone on Twitter has been trying to do, and you finally got me to give this game an honest try, and I'm consistently playing now.
Awesome.
I did just get back from a break, so if anyone's watching, wondering where the hell the video was last week, I was traveling. I was gone all week. So I'm getting back into it, trying to pick up where I left off and remember things. Anyways, our last video, Kyle, boy, a lot of folks were like, I would describe in the comments of the YouTube video, stoked to share tips on things that they wish they knew when they started playing Final Fantasy XIV. I have done my best to go through and like read each and every one of those damn things. And there's hundreds of comments at this point. So thank you for the warm welcome, everybody. Even those of you that think I'm drinking the copium, I believe is the cool phrase when it comes to preferring the art direction of World of Warcraft, which I stand by. I stand by that.
They're passionate.
I like more stylized stuff. You know, straightforward anime. It's cool. It's fine.
Stoke that fire.
I just like that's what I like, man. I like illustrative. I like painterly looking art direction, which is not Final Fantasy, but it is totally growing on me. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a really good time, and I'm having even better time now that I've learned a ton from talking to the community. And that's what today's episode is going to be, because we got a ton of tips in our YouTube comments on the last video, like I mentioned, and some have improved my play and your play so much that we wanted to make sure and share them. So we've kind of cherry picked some of the more common and most helpful tips that we received. We're not going to go through them all. We would be here for a week on this video. But before we get to the tips, there was one, what I would say, a bit of a mantra that appeared in the comments. Mentioning that a Realm Reborn is either where you bounce off or you get assimilated into the Final Fantasy XIV fandom.
Become a walking advertisement, and this was, quote unquote, said multiple times throughout our comments.
Which is good to know. I definitely have personally gotten, there's little beats where I'm trying my best to be patient and read all the quest text, because in ARR, there's not a lot of voice acting. You got to read everything. And I'm trying to be patient. But, you know, you get on those quest chains where it's like, go to this guy, then go back to this guy, then go back to that guy again, and then back to this guy. And they just kind of keep saying things like, we need to find the dude with the mask over and over again. I start to get bored and I stop reading at that point. However, I feel like I've gotten pretty good at kind of recognizing when it's going to be kind of a boring, not all that important bit of quest text to read, and when it is actually kind of worth my time. And if nothing else, I've kind of started picking characters. Like there's characters that I've been latching onto, and as a result, I've actually been reading some quest text. And yeah, I got to say, a lot of more than not, the quest text I find is like pretty amusing, like kind of witty. I'm not horrendously bored by actually trying to learn the lore of this world.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
But let's get to the most common tips we received. And one of the biggest ones was to go do the Hall of Novice. I stumbled upon the Hall of Novice just naturally, because it's like right around when you get sent to do your first dungeon.
But it is a side quest, and it's very easy to miss, and it's also like a long list of MMO things you probably know already, particularly if you're from a tab targeting MMO. So it's very easy to be like, oh, this isn't that important for me. However, inside of it is a ring called the Brand New Ring that gives you increased 30% XP when level 30 and below.
That might explain part of the reason I'm leveling so damn fast. There's a lot of reasons for leveling so damn fast. And one of the tips I'm not going to mention is so many folks were like, eat, for the love of God, just eat eggs, eat whatever food you find. It always gives you an experience bonus. And I was talking to my stream and I was like, am I right to feel like I don't really need to worry about this too much? Because I'm currently about 17 levels higher than the quests that I'm doing.
I think it's adorable. I hit a lot of XP walls going up through the main quest, and this community wants us to enjoy the game, and they're scared that if you hit an XP wall, you might drop it and you lose your spot.
That's fair.
And kind of like Witcher or any sort of giant RPG, go, I forgot where I was. I'm done with the game.
Nah, I think if you stick to the tip that we talked about last week, which was like just stick to the MSQ your first time through, you can take a break as long as you want and just click up in the top left. It'll tell you what to go do. But anyway, I like the Hall of Novice. What I liked most about it was I got like my first matching set of armor, and I'm a total goth wizard, and it's wonderful.
Congratulations.
I want emo ass black robes, Kyle. That's all I need.
I think the game can provide.
So the next tip that we got a lot of, and we did talk about this a little bit, but we didn't go into too far a detail, was to not use the suggest a gear feature if you're tanking, which I believe you made quick mention of, but this came up many, many times in the comments, that was really more or less, especially if you're new to the game like I am, the only time where you shouldn't use suggest gear, which I have been using and abusing like crazy since you informed me of that button's existence.
Right. And you as a spellcaster type do not need to worry about it. This is strictly for tanks because your item level in the below 50 areas is more important to the suggested gear button than the actual stats on it. So you'll end up in what would we know from World of Warcraft as DPS gear, when you should be looking at more of a defensive build if you're tanking.
Yeah. There were a few mentions of a more technical reason you wouldn't use it, which I guess is if you're pushing extremely high-end raid content, you're going off of lists of best-in-slot gear. But apparently that's even for like the higher difficulties of raiding content. So it sounds like something I will not need to worry about for quite a long time.
No, keep using that button.
If ever. All right. Are you ready for a potentially scandalous tip that was suggested many, many times?
Oh. How many times, Garrett?
Kyle, how do you feel about breaking the TOS?
No, oh, well, hang on. They've said it's okay.
Wait. So this is still technically, so the tip is to install GShade. So
yes.
Probably the most controversial remark I made last week was when I said, it looks fine. I don't think it looks all that great. Those of you who weren't yelling at me that World of Warcraft is the most hideous thing you've ever looked at, you were suggesting GShade, which is apparently a third-party add-on that really pumps up the visuals for Final Fantasy 14. And I saw in the comments, it's comments though, right? Like, so I don't know how much to believe it. Like multiple people mentioned, hey, it's against the TOS, but they seem cool with it.
They are.
I'm like, are y'all just trolling me? Because
no. The producers have gotten on the forums and straight up said, this does not affect gameplay nor the sort of culture we've built. It will get you banned if you post DPS meters in this game, because that's a third-party add-on that you're running that disrupts the environment. GShade, I'm feeling it a little bit, because I ended up at my new base, which you'll find eventually, where the lights go from above, and I look quite handsome, to down below, and they give me these weird, like, sunken cheeks. It's kind of like Mass Effect, where the camera spins around Shepard for the first time, and you go, oh no, I'm hideous. Suddenly, in this new lighting environment that I'm constantly ending up in for the main story quest, I kind of look ugly. So I will report back. I'm going to install GShade this week to see if I can fix my handsome.
Okay, cool. And then you can show me how to do it because it looks kind of complicated.
Yeah, it does look complicated.
I'm not the most handy with those sorts of things. Another tip that came up a ton of times, Kyle, was the need to attune to the smaller Aethrite crystals that are spread out all over major cities. That came up quite a few times.
Yeah.
So I did notice this before we posted the last video, and I just have this sinking feeling that this was posted in the comments to make me talk about how embarrassed I felt when I did realize that I needed to click on each and every one of these stupid blue butts. I think I had been playing for like 6 or 7 days at that point before I realized that A, this was something you could do, and B, you had to go and click on all of them. I thought you clicked on one and it gave you like the whole network. Yeah, I felt really dumb.
That's an interesting error. However, I had a completely different one that I didn't figure out until this week. Level 52, Garrett. And I didn't realize that the big crystal you teleport in on also counts as one of these crystals you can teleport from.
Yes, I did that too. That was even later. Although apparently I figured it out before you. So I feel, congratulations, Kyle, you're dumber than me.
Perfect. I figured it was like a portal. You go through the portal in WoW, and you do not turn around and like interact with that portal. You keep walking. So when I got to my main city, what I'd do is I'd go there. I'd run past the always dancing Pope, and I'd run all the way to the very first Aethrite Crystal I could find, which was a long way. I didn't know I could just turn around and then go straight to the Gladiators Guild.
It's same. So I was, I forget the name of the companies, but I went with the one that is based in Limsa because I love the pirate, like nautical theme. Big fan. Definitely not because I have a crush on the leader at all. Not whatsoever. So I would port in and I would immediately run through like the north, instance up to the upper decks, because if you go through that, then there's one of those small Aethrite crystals right freaking there. And that was my thing. Every time I would use my return to Limsa, I would run past the big crystal, go up the stairs, wait for it to load. It's on an SSD. It doesn't take that long, but still. And then I would click on the Aethrite crystal because, I just like you, I didn't know that you click on the giant Aethrite crystals to use the like inner city network. Yeah, and that I don't think was mentioned in our YouTube comments. And if it was, and you mentioned it, I apologize. I clearly missed it. But yeah, this is the tip from us two dummies. This made my life a lot easier once I figured that out.
Well, while it wasn't brought up this week, be sure to check your bags for little tiny letters with a red seal. It'll let you teleport directly to the Waking Sands. That comes up quite a bit.
Is it okay if I speak for you when I say that this next tip blew both of our minds?
That's okay.
Okay, cool. Because apparently you can re-enter the area of a telegraphed attack as soon as the telegraph marker disappears. The damage is not actually doled out by the animation itself. It's like I guess it's painting an area is the best way I would describe it, Kyle. Like if you're staring in the area as it's painted and then it assigns damage to that area, then you take the damage from the attack. But if the marker, the telegraph disappears, and you just step right back in front of whatever AoE is going off, you don't get damaged by it.
Right, you're almost highlighted like a turn-based RPG. If you exist in that zone, when it completes its charge, you will be damaged regardless of where you now stand. So one thing to note, and particularly coming from World of Warcraft where the animations are very much directly tied to the attacks, animations in Final Fantasy don't really matter. And that's a huge sweeping statement. I apologize for saying so, but that is the best way to understand it. Auto attack animations don't matter. Animations when they charge this area and then explode, or things fall from the ceiling, or lasers are shot. If you were outside that cone when it completed, you can walk right back in regardless of what the boss looks like it's hitting you with.
Yeah, now that I understand that too, I honestly gotta say I find it to be kind of a cool differentiator from other MMOs that I've played. Like just from I guess an aesthetic standpoint, it's kind of cool that it's like, no, I'm gonna step back into this fire now because I'm just that much of a badass.
It's also really important to note for tanking because after they do when they're in their charge, they will be standing still usually. Then they complete their charge and begin their attack. They might be free to move now. So if you are a tank and you step outside the zone and then linger, they will adjust their position having completed their charge. So get right back in where you were.
Speaking of animations and just the way that this game handles attacks and cooldowns and abilities and all of that stuff, turns out that there is a very big difference between a regular global cooldown abilities and off global cooldown abilities. Essentially, you can use one of the others when the other global cooldown is going. So if your like regular GCD is going, you can use an off GCD ability and vice versa, is my understanding. Right. I have so few abilities that are unique that I'm not sure. I'm level 40 something summoner at the moment is the best example of this in game.
Right. So off global cooldown abilities are what really fill out your kit as you get into that level 40, 50 area and make your play a lot more complex. When you first start, everything will be on global cooldown. So you hit a button, all the abilities spin. What you want to do is eventually reach a system where you're casting a on global cooldown ability and then an off global cooldown ability during that spin to maximize your throughput and your damage. This is where that auto attack thing I mentioned comes in. As long as you are in range of the thing you are auto attacking as perhaps a melee like I am, auto attacks will continue to flow regardless of what your character's doing in animation. So I have a number of attacks that have me do this like crazy combo swingy thing. During that, I'm auto attacking normally. And in fact, if I were to use Sheltron, which summons a huge giant shell over me of armor, graphically, I stop auto attacking and I stop delivering the ability I was just doing. That ability still goes through. That's why I say animations don't matter for your own sanity. So if you feel like you've interrupted your cast in another MMO, that didn't happen. Your animation is playing for your off global cooldown ability. Your on global cooldown ability is still functioning.
It's been an interesting thing. Like I said, at least at the moment where I'm at, I think I only have 2 abilities. Like my big nuke ability is not on the regular GCD. I noticed, which is really handy. But I'm trying to, and I haven't committed to memory all of the summoner abilities. Actually, pretty much none of them have I committed to memory yet. And I honestly have been trying not to think too hard about it because I guess summoner is about to change wildly once Endwalker hits.
I think you'll be fine. You'll adapt to it. One way to tell these is by looking as if they're weapons, skills, spells, or abilities, and that'll differentiate these 2 abilities apart. As you get more advanced in the game, you want to do 2 off global cooldown abilities between each global cooldown rotation. However, for now, just focus on doing 1 and use them frequently. Our cooldowns in other MMOs are massive 30-minute long things. Here, use them between trash pulls, pop them as often as you can. You're meant to be cycling through this stuff a lot.
Yeah. I finally got an ability that as a summoner, and I know this is all changing, allows me to spread my dots in like AoE fashion. It spreads everything in a radius, and what an absolute massive quality of life of improvement that is now that I'm running through these dungeons. Part of that too was me being so over level. I had it for a while, but I wasn't able to use it in the dungeons I was running.
That could happen. It's very crunchy, and I know this is probably the crunchiest part of the conversation tips we had today, but it introduced to me the depth that this game had, where previously I thought it might have been in error. And, you know, having that long of a global cooldown across all your abilities, it wasn't terribly thrilling.
Yeah, it seems to play a very large role into how rotations are supposed to play out. Like once you understand that and you get that you can weave in, off global cooldown abilities in between your regular global cooldown, it just makes a lot more sense and it feels so much crisper. As someone who's played a ton of tab targeting ass World of Warcraft for more than a decade and a half, I'm really enjoying the way rotations play out in Final Fantasy. And I'm still leveling, so I'm sure I'm going to have a much busier bar when I get to the end of this. Anyways, I think that brings us to the end of this. Thank you so much, everybody, for your tips and your comments. I really appreciate it. You've legitimately helped me. I know we talked about last week, I believe it came up, because I think some of the comments in there were about how Final Fantasy fan sites aren't as robust as some of the big names in a game like World of Warcraft. And that's certainly something that I noticed. I kept running into where guides would be like, all right, go get your job quest That was the thing I kept running into, but nowhere did it mention that you needed to be as far along on like you have to be past a certain point on the MSQ before that job quest will unlock. All of the guides I read make it a really big deal that you're of a certain level to go do your job quest. But because of the speed at which I'm leveling, I'm so over level, it is much more important for me to know at what point along the MSQ I need to be to go unlock that job quest. And I've yet to find a good resource for any sort of guide that informs me of that. So anyway, long story short, learning from actual players of the game has been legitimately helpful, which I don't know. I'm not too used to in games, Kyle.
I got lost trying to figure out the achievement vendor so I could get a special ring that ended up being outclassed eventually, but I did the hunting log. There's a lot. There's so many different ways to play this game, and there's not a rush to the end game that those sort of sites haven't really developed in order to streamline that process. And it's a interesting bit of the game, and I really enjoyed getting to learn from all the comments we had last time. If I were to request comments this time, I want to hear people sell us on jobs. I want to know what classes you enjoy, because right now I've just been sticking to the same thing because I'm enjoying the story. I'd love to get some information about why I should play a red mage. What is that? What bar system am I going to be using in there?
Yeah, folks have told me that red mage is kind of a combo of like really cool fire effects, but also melee abilities. Because I mentioned that I went into this intentionally trying to get out of my comfort zone because I have historically not played casters in MMOs. So I was like, all right, I want a different experience. So that's why I rolled Arcanist, and that's why I'm kind of sticking with Summoner at the moment. But Red Mage sounds very intriguing because once I mentioned that, some folks were saying that I should give Red Mage a try when I get there. So if there's other things you think I should try, I mean, historically, I like Paladins, Warriors, those types of characters. And I got to say, the giant effing swords that exist in this MMO, I was like, I kind of want to see what that's like. So let me know your favorite melee jobs that you think I should try. And appreciate that.
And tell me a little bit about some of these, like the culture things that go on with different classes. I always hear people trashing ninjas because they're bad or standing in the wrong. Why? Why do these various jobs have these stereotypes about them? And
are ninjas the hunter of Final Fantasy?
I don't know, but they're always getting like thrown around in tier lists or something. I'm trying to figure this out. Honestly, I really just want to be a Reaper. That sounds awesome.
I don't know what they do, but
nobody does yet. It's part of Endwalker, but it has a big site, Gotcha. It looks really cool.
Nice. Well, anyways, that brings us to the end of this episode. Comment below with the job or class you think we should try. If you want to get in touch with us, you can follow Kyle on Twitter at Kyle Ferguson. I am at Garrett Art, 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett. I trust you know how to spell art. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to take control over the algorithm. And you'll get the latest uploads from Kyle and me. We are switching our uploads to every Wednesday morning. It's going to give us just a little bit more time to edit anything we need to. Last couple episodes really came down to the wire. So we're like, you know what? We're going to do Wednesday mornings are going to be our uploads over at youtube.com/amovetv. And for all of our podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe if you're streaming the podcast version. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Nexus Gaming News. Until next time, good luck and have fun, everyone.